And 3, 2, 1, Zach, you're on, man.
Hey, everybody. I must have dozed off there for a second. And since today's ultimate guide to the awesome is taking a look at some of the smartest animals in the world, the last thing I wanted was to be unprepared. So I've been up all night studying my oceanography and my marine biology, because we're taking a look at those aquatic Einsteins, the dolphins. That is, if we can catch up to them. Because besides being big on brains, these mammals are no slouches when it comes to speed or agility. And talk about friendly. They're always ready for a little frolicking. Doesn't matter if it's down deep with some human admirers or up on the surface with some of their own. There's no doubt about it. These guys know how to live life to the fullest. But as familiar as they are to us, there's still a lot we don't know. But I aim to change that. I'm Zach, and study time is over. It's time to get real, and get real close to the dolphins, with Ultimate Guide to the Awesome. Cannonball! Talk about the perfect way to dive into the world of dolphins. And what a cool world it is. Well, at least as far as we know. Because as much as we love these beautiful, brainy mammals, they've always been a major mystery to us humans. I mean, just look at how they swim. Mermaids can't even touch this. How would you describe it? Smooth? Without a doubt. Powerful? No question about it. How about graceful and spectacular? Slow down. I'm running out of adjectives here. Alright, hold on. Let me consult my thesaurus. How about acrobatic? Or fantabulous? But guess what? The way they make waves is also supposed to be impossible. At least, that's what your friendly neighborhood physics expert would tell you. An animal with that body shape and size simply cannot move that fast, or maneuver in that fashion. It's preposterous. But then, they go out and do it anyhow. How? Well, a lot of theories have been tossed out there, including some pretty bizarre ones. Like, maybe their body heat changes the thickness of the water. Yeah, right. Or maybe their shape channels the water in some weird, inexplicable way. People, please! You might as well just say it's magic. I mean, some species of dolphin can swim for hours at a time, going at 25, sometimes 35 miles per hour. The fastest human swimmers, and we're talking Olympic gold medalists here, can only crank it up to about 8 miles an hour. And not for very long, either. That's pretty much the speed limit for any land mammal in the water. But finally, after years of guessing, we're getting some answers. Meet Terry Williams. She's an animal physiologist, an expert on how animals' bodies do their things. Her team is trying to figure out what makes dolphins such good athletes. They're testing the power and stamina of 2 bottlenose dolphins that were born in captivity. This is Primo. He's going to be monitored by something called a load cell. It measures the force he exerts as he swims. Looks like Primo is primed for action. His trainer, Billy, is putting a hood over Primo's blowhole. That's how they measure how much air he uses while he swims. Billy keeps Primo swimming at a steady rate while an assistant watches a readout of the dolphin's pushing power. So just what do all those numbers tell them exactly?
The reason we're doing the load cell experiments is just to find out what kind of an athlete bottlenose dolphins are. We know that dolphins can swim maybe 5 times faster than our best human Olympic swimmer, and we don't know how they do it. So what we're trying to find out is basically all the bits and pieces that make up a great swimming athlete.
42, 56.
All right, write down oxygen.
Now that might sound like a bunch of random numbers, but they're actually measuring how much energy it takes for the animal to move. They take into account the distance it goes and how much it weighs. It's called the dolphin's cost of transport.
All right, that's it. Looks good.
So what did the team discover? Well, of all the costs of transport ever measured, the absolute lowest is a dolphin's. That means with very little effort, dolphins swim with the greatest of ease.
And then on top of that, we measure just the basic physiology that you would measure for any Olympic athlete. We look at heart rate, respiration rate, oxygen consumption, all those things that tell us, is this a fantastic athlete or is this an animal that just knows how to cheat when it swims through the water?
Now there is a lot of scientific research on dolphins out there, and a lot has been learned, but it's really just a drop in the bucket. And the bucket is huge. It holds all the oceans and some of the world's major rivers. At least we know this. All dolphins are cetaceans. That's the same family as the whales. The cetaceans are divided into 2 groups. You've got your Mysticeti, or the huge plankton-eating whales, and on the flip side, you've got the fish-eating Odontoceti, aka toothed whales. All 40 species of dolphins are Odontoceti. Everyone from the high-flying dusky dolphin to the aquatic whirling dervish known as the spinner, to the fashionable spotted dolphin, which I call the Dalmatian of the sea, and the world-famous bottlenose. Heck, even the orca's in the dolphin family photo album. That's right, the killer whale isn't a whale at all. Here's a look at the Odontoceti posse. Everybody from the itty-bitty 4-footer known as Hector's dolphin, all the way up to Big Daddy Orca, over 30 feet long and 7 tons. But wait, who are these intruders? From the slightly different body shapes, I'd say we've got the 6 species of porpoise. Fetch me my goggles, Mega Magnifier. I knew it. When I see that shorter, chunkier body, high forehead, and less well-defined beak, I pretty much know I'm looking at a porpoise. But for those times I'm not sure, I do a little aqua dentistry. See how the dolphin's teeth are sharp and cone-shaped? Perfect for grabbing fish. Porpoise teeth are flat at the top. But get this, they're also used for deep-sea fishing. Why so different? No one knows. Now you can travel to any ocean on the planet and you'll find dolphins living there. But dolphins are adventurous animals, so they don't limit themselves to saltwater. Make a list of some of the world's great rivers: the Yangtze in China, the Indus in Pakistan, the Ganges and Brahmaputra in India. All of them have freshwater dolphins. And over in South America, they make their home in the Orinoco and Amazon rivers. The Amazon and its tributaries form the world's largest river system. We're talking nearly 4,000 miles, flowing through 9 countries. And swimming almost every one of those miles are these guys, the botos. Now, if you don't like that name, you can call them Amazon River dolphins. They're the biggest freshwater dolphins. They can grow to be 7 to 10 feet long. But as you can see, their size doesn't slow them down one little bite. This is actually a mother boto with her calf. He's still too young to be a very skilled hunter, but by the time he is 1 year old, he should have it down. Bon appetit, baby boto. Okay, By now you know that our mammal brothers, the dolphins, are kinda shrouded in mystery. Well, one way to solve a mystery is to retrace some steps. So bust out your tracing paper, Sherlock. The road to dolphinhood started hundreds of millions of years ago, before life existed on land. Later, plants and insects came ashore. And finally, the vertebrates developed a little backbone and joined them. Now, a few 100 million years later, the dolphin's ancestors evolved into this guy, the ancient mammal called Masonichid. It kinda looked like a wolf, but actually it was more closely related to cows and deer. Its hunting grounds were the swamps near the ocean. The more time it spent near the water, the more its body changed, until finally, it turned into a full-on aquatic creature again. Enter Archaeocetes. Since it was a mammal, breathing underwater like a fish wasn't an option. So Archaeocetes' nostrils evolved into one, and then moved to the top of the head and blowhole. The dorsal fin developed for balance, and the body got way more streamlined. The front legs turned into fins too, great for steering. But inside these fins, they still have these bones, just like a land mammal. The back legs are pretty much useless now, so they just disappeared. But some dolphins do still have loose leg bones back there, totally unconnected to their skeletons. Meanwhile, the rest of their skeletons were changing too. The vertebrae in the back became more loosely connected, and they developed padded discs. Now, the backbone was practically like a whip. But every whip needs a handle, and when the neck vertebrae fused together, that's just what the dolphin got. They also developed huge muscles covering the entire skeleton. Muscles like these help land mammals stand up. But since the dolphins had left all the land behind, all those muscles could be used to swim. Their body hair didn't last long either, but keeping warm would be easy thanks to their new, thick coat of blubber. And since water sucks heat off a body faster than air, having all that extra insulation was a must. For swimming power, the dolphin's big, strong tail evolved to be horizontal, generating power the vertical fishtail can only dream of. But dolphin evolution wasn't all about power. Their senses adapted to the water too. No fish ever born can even come close. What was the master plan? First, they had to do something about that sight. Land mammals like us can see just fine in air, but underwater, it's all a blur. The only way we can get a clear view is with goggles or a diving mask. They keep our eyes surrounded by air, just like on dry land. As aquatic mammals, dolphins adapted and developed their own built-in goggles. Now, their eyes have mad flexible lenses. What difference does that make? Not much. Only that they can focus above the surface and below it. And if that wasn't enough, they went and evolved glands that protected their eyes from the sea salt. Of course, not all dolphins saw fit to making that particular adaptation. Welcome to India, more specifically the Ganges River. Now there's no salt water here, but there are dolphins. Freshwater dolphins. Now for some reason, these guys love life in the muddy Ganges, even though it only has a few inches of visibility. In fact, they can probably only see light and dark. Something like this. So how does a dolphin get around in the Ganges? I mean, we know it catches fish to eat, but fishing's hard enough with 20/20 vision, a rod, a reel, and state-of-the-art tackle. Hopefully, Mega Mag can see us through this one. Just like all its cetacean brothers and sisters, the Ganges River dolphin sees the world through echolocation, aka sonar. its entire head is wired with built-in sending and receiving equipment. It makes clicks near its blowhole. Then, the clicks go through an area in the forehead called the melon. Now, put away your picnic baskets. This melon is filled with fat, which helps turn the sounds into a narrow beam. That beam gets sent out in a bunch of short pulses. When the echoes of those pulses reflect back, the dolphin hears them through its lower jaw, which is connected to the ears. Dolphins can use their sonar skills to sense things that are invisible to the naked eye. The expert making this amazing claim is none other than Dave Goodson, a sonar engineer at the Underwater Acoustics Group in England.
We're looking at the dolphin's sonar, and just to put it into perspective, a bottlenose dolphin can see something the size of an orange about 80 meters ahead of him. And that is approximately equivalent to the echo it would get from quite a large fish, but one that it could still swallow whole. So we've got a good feel, I think, for what they do in the wild when they're looking for fish mid-water. But then we discovered the interesting things, like the dolphin who is looking into the seabed surface at close range, and clearly has detected the presence of a fish that's buried in the sand.
Aha!
Now, the echoes at the frequencies they produce should bounce from the sand, but they're able to get some information from below the sand particles, and they will sometimes even dive into the sand to recover them.
Dig it. That dolphin sonar sure is sophisticated. But then, they've had 20 million years to perfect the sense that we humans are still trying to understand.
They don't need to use active sonar to find their way around. They have a perfectly good passive sonar. They can listen. They hear waves breaking on a seashore. They know which side of their travel direction that is. They will hear the noise of shipping in a harbour. You'll hear the clinking chains of a mooring, for example. So they've got lots of acoustic cues that they can listen to, and that doesn't expend any energy. So they will travel quite happily in total darkness and swim quite fast without echolocating to avoid bumping into things. When they use the active sonar, it's because they need to, and that's when they're trying to localize the food. They have to identify a swimming prey, lock onto it, guide their mouth to the actual fish. It's equivalent to us reaching out across the dinner table to pick up a piece of food, but it takes quite a lot of energy, and so the only time you really hear a bottlenose dolphin, for example, in the wild, turning the sonar on is when he's basically feeling hungry.
The thing that gets experts so pumped about dolphin sonar is how sensitive and accurate it is. Since Dave is a sonar engineer and not a biologist, he studies dolphins only as a sonar system. Lately, he's focused his research into a narrow beam and pointed it at the receiving equipment, the dolphin's lower jaw, and more specifically, its teeth.
The interesting thing about this is that the spacing between these teeth is actually the same all the way along the jaw. Now that seems a little strange, but it also makes sense because this is about one wavelength apart in seawater at the highest frequency these animals operate. So the question comes to mind is, are the teeth playing some part in echo-reception?
Dave thinks so. As far as he can tell, the position of the teeth are the secret to the dolphin's jaw-droppingly sensitive sonar. On one side of its mouth, the row of teeth is set in a slightly different position than on the other side. In fact, they are exactly half a tooth's width farther up the jaw. When sounds reach the dolphin's jaw, its teeth send the information to the brain at slightly different times. Then, the brain interprets the difference to figure out the exact direction the sound is coming from. So dolphins can always tell where their next meal is coming from. As the king of the primates, we humans are rightfully proud of our brain power. But are we really the smartest mammals? That's the question that kept me up studying. Could dolphins take us to school in the Department of Intelligence? Well, if any animal could give us a run for our money, it would have to be these guys. How do I know that? Well, for one thing, they're wicked fast learners. And school pretty much starts on day one. Welcome to an actual dolphin birth. After 10 months in the womb, this calf is coming out. And talk about your genius baby. This little nipper already knows he's got to get to the surface to take his first breath. But before the real life lessons can begin, Mom makes sure her calf has plenty of rich milk to drink. Mother and baby are going to stick together for about 2 or 3 years. In animal terms, that's a long time at home. But it takes that long for Junior to learn his survival skills. He needs to know how to hunt, how to feed, and how to communicate with the rest of the group, known as a pod. To do that, they've come up with some pretty complex languages. But how smart are they, really? Well, they got big brains, and you've seen how well they can be trained. But can they tell me the capital of South Dakota? Alright, that's not fair. There aren't any dolphins in South Dakota. Well, let's let Terry Williams handle this tricky question.
Dolphins and intelligence, that's a tough question. I think it's tough because I don't know how to measure it for humans. I don't know what makes intelligence for a child versus an adult, and we can talk to them. I don't know what to do about dolphins. We don't have the same language, so I don't know how to measure intelligence. Are they friendly? Are they sociable? Are they trainable? They're all those things. They're great fun to be with. They pay attention to you. And if that's all intelligence, then they're right up there with dogs and horses and primates.
Okay, so maybe they're not quite ready to teach middle school. Unless maybe they want to coach the swim team. But we do have to take a lesson from the orcas. The killer whale's language is the most sophisticated of all the dolphins. And the best way to appreciate it is in person. So we're way up north in Norway to tag along on an orca fishing trip. And wait till you see this teamwork. Sometimes 3 generations of an orca family will hook up to hunt. And that means the local herring are about to get played for prey. First, the orcas swim around under the herring, kind of corralling them, like cowboys herding cattle. They keep in constant communication as they slowly close in, tightening the noose. With a flash of the orca's white belly, the herring swims scared even farther into the trap. It's getting pretty claustrophobic, and there's nowhere to go but up. If the fish don't move fast enough for the orca's taste, they get a little friendly encouragement from the hunter's giant tails. Next thing you know, herring anyone? Rounding up all that fish might look like overkill to us, but an adult orca can eat more than 400 herring a day. So, the more the merrier. And there are always some leftovers for the local seabirds. Hey, you're supposed to wait an hour before going swimming. The orcas of the Johnstone Strait in Vancouver, Canada are pretty decent at catching fish, too. But instead of snaring herring, the catch of the day around here is delicious, nutritious salmon. These orcas hunt by swimming in a line. Their vision is clouded by the murky water around here, so they have to rely almost totally on their sense of sonar. When they pick up the salmon on their sonar screens, the orcas corral them by sight. And dinner is served. Eating the fish is only one part of this meal. Animals like you and I use saliva to break down the food we eat. But members of the dolphin family don't make saliva. Life without spit? Harsh. The orca's stomach picks up the slack. Now, before you start feeling sorry for the stomach, you should know it's got a partner. In fact, just like their distant cousins, the cows, both whales and dolphins have multiple stomachs. One stomach stores the food, and the other digests it. That way, orcas can chow down when the chowing's good. And then, when they've got a free moment, they can transfer it little by little to their second stomach. Then they've got energy to burn, and they need it. for things like diving. All species of dolphin can dive. The best ones can go as deep as 1,000 feet. Humans can get down deep too, but we need scuba gear, and we have to be careful. The pressure of all that water can force nitrogen to dissolve in our bloodstreams. If divers come up too fast, the nitrogen undissolves. Now, this condition is called the bends, and let me tell you, you do not want to get this. It's totally painful and can sometimes even cause death. Dolphins have us beat cold in this department. They never get the bends.
You have to understand, diving for dolphins is an amazing thing when you think of all the things that they have to do. They have to exercise, they have to keep warm, they have to be able to hold their breath for a long period of time, and they're doing all of that on one breath. And so it's like asking a human athlete to run around a track, run a marathon, and do it on a single breath.
Terry did a study to figure out how much oxygen an active dolphin uses, but her numbers didn't add up. According to her math, dolphins would drown if they ever tried diving down past 600 feet. Obviously, they don't. To find out why, some scientists from Texas A&M University hooked this video camera to a dolphin. The results were a real eye-opener. Before these experiments, the experts assumed that dolphins dive by swimming. Sounds reasonable to me, but guess what? They don't. Sure, there are a few powerful strokes of the tail to get going, but after that, they shut down their engines and drop like a ton of bricks. The water pressure increases, making their flexible rib cage and lungs collapse. The dolphins get smaller and don't float as well. At the bottom of the dive, their hearts start racing. With a few quick strokes, they're headed back towards the surface. At around 250 feet, the pressure lets up and the lungs open again. Now the dolphin's buoyant again, making the last leg of the trip a smooth glide. Hey, this camera's freezing. What's going on, Terry?
Water can rob the body of heat about 25 times faster than air, and so the animals had to figure out basically how to keep warm. The tough part, though, is that they always have that wetsuit on. So when they get into warm water, it's a tough situation on how to get rid of the excess heat. And the only places they can lose heat is across that dorsal fin, across the flukes, and then across the pectoral fins. And those are pretty small surface areas, but they serve as a terrific radiator that the animal can bring blood up into and then cool that blood and have it go back into the core of the body and help cool the animal down.
Makes a lot more sense than trying to air condition the ocean. To measure dolphins' body temperatures, Terry and her research team have done experiments in the wild and in the pool, where our old pal Primo is always happy to help. This is how you take a dolphin's temperature. I wish my mom knew about that machine when I was a kid. Those heat sensors, some thermal imaging cameras, and Megamag help them discover something very cool about how dolphins beat the heat. They don't just send blood to be cooled in the fins and tail right away. They wait until they come up for air. Which brings to mind that eternal question, why? Well, pumping all that blood around their bodies uses energy. By waiting until they surface, they conserve oxygen and can dive a lot longer. It's the same kind of deal when it comes to dolphin communication. One way to send a message is with some jaw snapping. Now these guys look like they're all goofy and friendly, but looks can kill, so watch your back. This sweet smile is actually a threat. And if you ever see them swimming upside down and twisting like a corkscrew, you better head for shore, because those cetaceans are ticked off. It's true. Even fun-loving dolphins can get mad. Here are the warning signs to watch for. Is your dolphin arching its body, opening its mouth, or clapping its jaws? How about flapping its tail and squawking? Now, even though research has proven it, it's still kind of hard to believe dolphins have a dark side. But here you have this group of males teaming up to bully this unlucky dude. You guys better save your energy. You've got bigger fish to fry. Ah yes, dolphin public enemy number 1, the shark. They're a serious threat to every bod in the pod. But the dolphins don't just roll over when a shark hits down. Sometimes they'll gang up to send the hungry predator back where he swam from. Some sharks back off, and some don't. Dolphins have the battle scars to prove it. Not to mention the damaged and sometimes lost fins. It could be a jungle out in the ocean. Especially over in Scotland. Now recently, there have been some cetaceans attacked there. And the accused isn't a shark. And no, it isn't a dog. This guy's here with his master to see the latest tragic evidence of a porpoise killing. Who's the prime suspect? None other than their very own cousin. This is rare amateur video of some bottlenose dolphins off the Scottish coast. And what you're about to see seems unbelievable, but the pictures don't lie. Those are bottlenose dolphins, tossing helpless porpoises around for what looks like nothing more than fun. Guess even the friendliest mammals have a few bullies in the pod. I've seen enough. Hey, pick on someone your own size, bottlenose. Well, with the exception of those Scottish lunkheads, it's been pretty smooth sailing for the dolphins. Playing in the sea foam, showing off at Marineland, flirting with the mermaids. But there are some choppy waters ahead. Our fellow mammalians have to confront an enemy that's all too familiar to us. Unfortunately, dolphins have more to fear from human beings than from any other predator. And it's all for the love of tuna. These are some Pacific tuna, chasing after food. Now they have no idea that this fishing boat set a huge net to catch them. Problem is, a bunch of dolphins were after the same fish as the tuna, and now they're caught in the same net. It's a real tragedy. Every year, thousands of dolphins die in nets like these. And sometimes, the fishermen even kill them for damaging their equipment, or scaring the tuna away. And these guys got lucky though. This net has a built-in escape hatch just for them. These days, in a lot of countries, fishermen have to use this kind of dolphin-friendly equipment. And the dolphins couldn't be happier. But sometimes, dolphins can be their own worst enemies. See, like a lot of other animals, most dolphins and whales migrate. They use the Earth's magnetic field as a compass. But once in a while, for no apparent reason, they lose their sense of direction and go off course. When that happens, they swim up on beaches and die. It's called a stranding, and nobody knows the reason for this horrible tragedy.
Up to 90 pilot whales have died on Tasmania's southeast coast this weekend.
Despite this latest tragedy, the experts are still no closer to finding out just what makes these highly intelligent animals end up like this.
Every year, people find thousands of stranded dolphins. And it's been happening for thousands of years. Sure doesn't make it any easier to watch, though. These folks are trying to help. Thankfully, not all dolphins do this. Usually it's only the most tight-knit species, like these pilot whales. Some experts say their bonds are too strong. If one member goes off course, the others blindly follow. Another theory says it's like a mass suicide, or it could be a glitch in the magnetic fields. Rescuers sometimes get the dolphins back in the water only to watch them swim right back onto the beach. To try to understand why dolphins do this, experts look at dolphin societies. These scientists are firing up the rubber dinghy to get personal with some dolphins off New Zealand's coast. They try to identify different individual dolphins so they can see what role each one plays in the pod. Tim Markowitz is the head dolphin sociologist.
We're studying their social organization and population structure, and the way we do that is to collect skin samples for DNA analysis.
And here's how they do that. Tim's going to use a nylon pad to scrape a tiny amount of loose skin from a dolphin's back. Now, it's totally harmless, but it's going to give the team a way to gather rubber dinghy loads of information about this pod of dusky dolphins.
It's a very healthy population. There's a lot of genetic diversity there. So that's a good sign that these dolphins are doing quite well. As far as photo ID goes, we take pictures of their dorsal fins. The skin on the dorsal fin on the trailing edge is quite thin and sort of tears and tatters readily. It occurs naturally and leaves these natural marks that we can use for identifying individuals, and we can track them over time with these photographs.
Each dolphin's dorsal fin is completely unique. They're like fingerprints. Keeping track of them all is a complicated project. After they take the photos, they're all put into a catalog. Then, the pictures are converted into outlines, which are drawn by hand. This way, they can get a positive ID on each dolphin. Scientists have been able to keep track of individuals and follow their migration routes and family pod sizes. But now, new technology is changing everything. Logging fins has gone futuristic. Those goggles are hooked up to an underwater camera. The camera is controlled from this boat. When the researcher sees a dolphin swimming below, the camera videotapes it. Back in the lab, the fin's outlines are drawn by computer. Everything gets done much faster. Which will hopefully make these guys a little bit less of a mystery. If we've made one thing clear today on the Ultimate Guide to the Awesome, it's that dolphins are one tight-knit group of mammals. But, just like in the human species, some dolphins prefer to be left alone. Well, by other dolphins at least. They're called solitary dolphins, and even though they're quiet loners in their world, some of them put the lampshade on their head in ours. These class clown cetaceans are known as friendly dolphins. New Zealand is known the world over for its friendlies. The most famous is the legendary Opo. She hung out around this beach back in the 1950s. Here's some ancient footage of her that we discovered. She was known for giving rides on her back. Opo's pod was the crowd of tourists that would come see her. And New Zealand isn't the only place the friendlies like to shoot the breeze. Over in Europe, it's a regular friendly fest, especially off the rocky shores of Dingle, a town on the west coast of Ireland. It's the home of Fungi, probably the most famous solitary dolphin in the world. He's a tourist industry all by himself. People come from every corner of the globe just to see him. Or if they're real lucky, maybe give him a fin scratch. Sometimes friendlies get together to party up in posses. Over at Monkey Mia on the west coast of Australia, groups of friendlies show up at the beaches, and it's standing room only. People stand in the shallow water, waiting to give these smooth operators a pet. The experts wonder why the friendlies act this way. One tasty theory is the free food that the tourists bring. But whatever the reason, there's no doubt that when dolphins do their thing, humans can't help watching. It's been going on professionally for over 100 years. Today, places like this rake in the cash, thanks to the ocean's best entertainers. But it's not just about fun and games with the audience. There's serious business taking place here too. Dolphin shows have given scientists the chance to do some long-term, up-close and personal studies of them. As fun as they are to watch, there's a more important reason to give people a chance to see dolphins in action. Probably the best thing that comes from the shows, even better than the twists, the dives, the flips, the tips, or, yes, even the drips, is that a lot of the fans in the stands will join conservation groups and work to make the world safer for these incredible animals. And if you're wondering if the dolphins appreciate it, I got your answer right here. Yeah, we love it! Aw, you old sentimental fool, get out of here. What's that, boy? Dolphins show their love in other ways, too? You're right. Therapists all over the world are using the dolphin-human connection to help disabled kids. The dolphin-human connection has been tried as a treatment for disorders that traditional medicine can't help. Because of this, a lot of people think that dolphins have magical healing powers. Now, there's no proof of that, but this kid seems to be pretty happy with the results. If you're thinking you'd like to check out this mystical connection yourself, you're in luck. There are places all over the world that will give you the chance to swim with the dolphins. And millions of people take them up on the offer every year. Here's a group of them now, and it looks like they've got plenty of company. Now, if you thought frolicking with fungi looked fun, just imagine partying with a whole pod. People who've gone on these trips say it's the kind of thing you never forget for as long as you live. And a lot of them say it's one of the most emotional experiences they've ever had. Well, I don't know much about emotion, but if you get to ride in one of those underwater scooters, count me in. But like a lot of good things, these dolphin swim meets can also have a downside. The same people who make special trips to hang with the dolphins can also disrupt the dolphins' lives.
Yep, I've got that.
So,
Okay,
the
we got
tours
it.
are regularly monitored by conservation groups who protect the dolphins' welfare.
Catherine, I've got dolphins. They're off Barney's Point. Okay. I would guess they're about, maybe about 2 o'clock, just south of Barney's Point. Ready, set.
Tim Markowitz helps get a fix on what they're up to.
We track the dolphins using a surveyor's theodolite, which measures horizontal and vertical angles. And using this, we can determine the dolphins' locations, their movement patterns, and where they are in relation to one another within the various pods that they organize themselves.
Noni, are you ready on the computer? Okay. Ready, set.
We can also track vessels in their area. And over the last 10 years, tourism industry has developed here in Kaikoura extensive whale watching and dolphin watching, and also dolphin swimming. It's a lot of people jumping in the water with the dolphins. And we just want to make sure that it's done in a way that's sustainable and seems to work. And it does seem to work here. We think this is actually a very well-managed system and a model for other places where people are looking to increase tourism with dolphins in other parts of the world. So they've got a good thing going here.
So go ahead and jump for joy, little buddy. If this keeps up, your species is going to be around for a long time. Terry Williams thinks she knows why we're so taken with the cetaceans.
Maybe people find dolphins so appealing because dolphins seem to be so interested in us. There's a lot of interaction between people and dolphins. And if you've ever been to a zoo and had a lion look at you, you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach that you're being sized up for the next meal. But when you have a dolphin look at you, you feel like you're being sized up for how much fun you can be. So maybe we just need to be a little bit more like dolphins. They're just more fun.
Couldn't agree more, Terry. I mean, you want to tell me that an animal that does that isn't having fun? But as I've said from the get-go, and my thanks to the experts for backing me up, dolphins are a lot more than party animals. I mean, they live in complex underwater societies, cooperate like there's no tomorrow, teach their young how to be strong individuals. Man, they've even got their own radical language. They're some of the brainiest mammals in the 7 seas. But instead of being all stuck up, they're curious and sensitive enough to be part of our world too. Doesn't matter if they're performing tricks for us, hanging out at the beach, or helping sick kids feel better. Facts are facts. Dolphins make a huge impression on everyone who meets them. Well, they sure made an impression on me, because I haven't crammed this hard for anything in a long time. But you know what? I'm glad I did, because now there's no doubt about how smart these mammals really are. And I wouldn't want any unanswered questions before I take my nap. See you next time.